Welcome back to The Root of All Success. We have a very special episode for you today here on episode number 310 on The Root of All Success. I was recently a guest on a podcast by Wade Reed, who's the host, and it's called Your Wealth Acceleration Podcast. This is a guy who does his own podcast about wealth acceleration and ways to make wealth, etc. And he had some pretty good questions of me in this conversation, this interview he did with me. And I thought I'd release it here as a special episode on The Root of All Success. So I hope you enjoy, and leave a comment on the YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think about this special episode.
Hey, what is up, Money Masters? It's Wade Reed here for another episode of the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. And today I have a guest I can't wait to share with you because he has a really unique approach to those of us who are in business. And I know most of you are. And you're always thinking about what's to come for my business. Am I going to sell it? Am I going to leave it as a legacy business? Or how do I work in my business and still feel like I am retired from my business? So today we have Jason Duncan. Hello, Jason. How are you, man?
Hey, Wade, I am doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. So glad to have you here. Guys, Jason is in Nashville and has a really interesting background in business. Jason, would you share with us just a little bit of how you became who you are today in business?
Yeah, so I started my career in high school and college working in pastoral ministry. Spent 13 years doing that, and then got tired of it. I couldn't do it anymore. So I went back to school, got a master's in education, taught school for 4 years, thought I would be teaching school forever. But budget cuts coming out of the Great Recession had me looking for other employment opportunities. And I made a decision to start a business, and out of sheer desperation, need to pay the bills, started a business, and it worked. It worked really well. And I know my story is not typical, but with our first full year in business, we were profitable. Second full year in business, we did over $1 million in revenue, and it just took off. It just went really well. In 2020, I exited the daily operations of that business, wrote a book about my experience of exiting the business without selling it. And that book is called Exit Without Exiting. And as I did that, more people started asking me, well, how did you do it? And that's when I started my coaching company and my mastermind called the Exeter Club, where I show entrepreneurs how to do what I did and ultimately how to take your business to market for maximum value.
Dude, like everyone I know is listening to this who's a business owner is going to be reeling with, wait, you exited without exiting? Could you tell us a little bit more about what that actually means?
Yeah, so I think the idea exit without exiting means well, let me tell you a story. So when I did what I did, I transitioned the daily operational control of the business over to 4 key people on my team. And I started off by telling them, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to meet with you guys once a week, and we're going to make sure everything's going good. You're going to bring any issues to me, and then I'm not going to be in the office anymore. Once a week. And then it went to once a month, and then once a quarter, and then eventually I didn't meet with them at all. They were running everything. And at least that was the plan. That was how we were positioning this. And so as I did that, people who knew me, they said, "Hey, did you sell your business?" And like, no. Well, what? You're never at the office. You're never there. You don't. What's going on? Did you exit? And I was like, well, yeah, I did, but I didn't exit. And so that's kind of exit without exiting means. So I still owned the business, still made the money from the business. This was still ultimately responsible for the business, but I had nothing to do with the daily operations whatsoever. I was an owner investor. I owned it, but as an investor, not an operator or even a manager.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. A lot of the clients I've had over the years have been in the professional space, like doctors, attorneys. And I think that's probably a foreign concept to them. But for those of you listening, if you happen to own a franchise or if you happen to own a retail operation, it's easier to do that type of thing, be an owner, sometimes called an absentee owner. And sometimes from the very beginning, planned that way. But if you're in a business and you love to do what you do, and maybe you like to work in the business and are looking to get out, Jason, what would be maybe one of the first steps that people could take to start moving in that direction?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do it's not tactical at all. This is all mindset. You have to know that you cannot be the hero of your business. Because if you're the hero of your business, you will always be shackled to the business and the business will be shackled to you. which means that if something happens to you and you're not present anymore, the business cannot survive. And you may think, well, I'm the hero because I know things better than everybody else and I can do it better than everybody else. And that might be true. But the reality is you're selfish by doing that. Because let's say you have 5 employees, 10 employees, 50, whatever the number is. If those employees' paychecks and livelihoods are dependent upon you, and if you're not there, they can't get paid. That's selfish. You're actually setting them up into a dangerous position. So if you've got 30 employees, that's 30 families whose livelihoods and college and tuition and weddings and medical care all depends upon the business paying them. But if the business can't survive without you, then that's not good. So I think first step, no matter whether you're a professional as a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, whatever, a chiropractor, whatever you are, you have to understand the mindset that you cannot be the hero of the business. And then once you get that kind of mindset, at least you don't have to fully embrace it, but you got to accept it. Then we can start working on tactical stuff.
Okay, I totally love that because the thinking around what it is that we do, I know I have been stuck in that personally, and probably to some extent still am because I love working with my clients. But I don't have a lot of employees at this stage in my business. I just love to have a kind of a lifestyle business. But the people I work with and have worked with, I know have a handful of employees, maybe up to 40, 50 employees in some cases. So that shift to recognize you don't have to be, and in fact can't be the hero, that's probably going to be really different for a lot of our listeners. So, like, how did that shift for you?
Well, I think everybody's going to have a different take on this. Here's how it happened for me. In 2016, I hired a business coach for the very first time. I didn't before that time, I didn't know what a I didn't know business coaches existed. I didn't know that was a thing. I hired a business coach and he helped me start seeing things very, very different. And we worked with him for about not quite 3 years, almost 3 years. And about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through our engagement, I remember he and I were having a conversation, more off the cuff conversation than
Okay.
down to business. And he asked a question, Jason, what would you do if you weren't running this business? If you had everything you knew now and you knew everything you knew now, would you have started this business or would you have done something different? And I said, man, I would never have started this business. It's like there's nothing about this business that I like or enjoy. I love the people. I love what I do in terms of working with people. But this business in lighting and electrical, that's not my thing. I did it out of opportunity and the opportunity paid me really, really well. So that particular year, I think it was in 2018. I think it was in 2018. We had, for the first time, we had a 7-figure EBITDA. We were killing it. Like life was really, really good. And so I said to my coach, his name is BJ. I said, hey, BJ, why don't I just sell the business? Like, cause I don't, and like, I like my employees and I like doing that part of it, but the rest of it, I don't care anything about this industry. And he said, well, we could do that, but you can't. And I said, what do you mean I can't? I mean, we made $1 million this year. Like that's a lot of money. Surely we could sell this business for a good chunk of money. And he said, no, because the reason you want out is same reason no one else wants in. And what he meant was I didn't want to be the bottleneck of the business. I didn't want to be the constraint of the business, and I was. I had good teams, and we were making good money, but everything still ran through me. Even though I wasn't the number one salesman anymore. I wasn't the number one administrator anymore. I wasn't the number one finance guy like I used to be. All those people still had to come to me and ask me questions, and they still relied on me
Mm.
to make it happen. And he said, nobody will want to buy that business because nobody wants a job. And it struck me as like, oh, well, then how do I get out of this thing? So that was when the exit without exiting started. I started to try to figure out how do I figure out how to get myself extricated or disentangled from the business so that it can run without me, thereby making the business more valuable and giving me my life back. And then I discovered I don't have to sell it at all. I can maintain ownership. Once it's paying me and I'm not working in it, why would you sell it?
Powerful. So it sounds like it was more a function of empowering team members and you letting go of things that you just for some reason felt you needed to control. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so the first tactical step, now I've built a whole platform methodology around this called the XOS, which stands for Exeter Operating System. And there's seven stages to this. And stage one is basic delegation. So from a tactical standpoint, entrepreneurs are historically bad at delegation. So they have to understand basic delegation so that they stop doing everything. And so that's stage one. Stage two is assembling your support squad. So you're right on track, Wade. This is about getting the right people in place. Your support squad are going to be making sure you've got your administrative stuff tied down. You've got the basic running of the business handled without you having to be in the mix, like the basic stuff. And then the third stage is when you put together your A team. And your A team is going to be your most critical part moving forward because your A team is the team of people that you're going to rely on to make the decisions when you're not present, but make them as if they were you making those decisions. That is really critical. So the first three stages of this XOS methodology that I used to exit without exiting, and then all my clients and hundreds of other people have used it, is start with delegation. Got to learn to delegate, and there's specific ways to do that. And then you assemble your support squad, and then you get your A team prepared, and then we can start talking about the higher level stages.
Nice. How often do you view people having trouble with delegation, and what are some of the key things that can be done to make that more effective?
I think most people, and when I say most, I'm talking like 99% of people are very bad at delegation. Even the people who say they're pretty good at it, they're bad at it because we confuse delegation with just assigning a task to someone. Because just telling somebody to do something isn't delegation. That is dictation at best. It's not delegation. What a lot of people do, as I found, is they practice something called confiscation. And what they do is they give a task to someone, say, "Here, I need you to do this, Bob." And Bob goes, does it, but you're always looking over his shoulder like, "Nah, don't do it that way, Bob. Nah, don't do it this. How you should do, you know what? Just give it to me." And that's the hero syndrome creeping back in. It's like, I can do it better than Bob. So we say we're good at delegating because we gave Bob a task, but we really confiscated it. So we didn't delegate it, we confiscated. And then on the other side, it's like if you look at this like a pendulum, delegation is in the middle. To one side is confiscation, even though it rhymes with delegation, but it's not the same. And the other side is abdication. It's another word that rhymes with delegation, but it's not. Abdication, not a word we use a lot, but this is what abdication looks like. You give a task to Bob and then you never check in. You never like you don't even know if it ever got done. And that is abdication. That is giving up your responsibility or authority over that task. And that was the sin that I committed. Ultimately, if I look back at all the mistakes I've made as an entrepreneur, that's the biggest one. Is I trusted people too much without verifying and checking in. And so now I'm in the process of I wrote the book Exit Without Exiting. I'm in the process of reconsidering how do I retell this story, but now with the pain of the mistakes that I made that happened after the book was published and written. Like, how do I show people there is a way not to abdicate? There's a way not to confiscate, but there's a beautiful middle way to delegate the right way.
Like, can you tell us more about that? Like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, so there's three critical questions that have to be answered when you're delegating. And so if you sit Bob down, you say, "Bob, I want to delegate this task to you." Bob needs to know why this task is important. Because if Bob just thinks you're unloading crap you don't want to do, he's not going to have any ownership or buy-in on that. So the understanding of why. So I remember one time sitting down with an assistant that I'd hired years ago, and I spent 3 or 4 hours explaining to her in her training email. So we're sitting at the desk elbow to elbow, and I'm showing her email and how to do newsletters and how to handle email. And I'm 3 hours into this, and it's been brutal. And she was taking notes, and she's a smart lady. She was gonna get this all figured out. But I stopped for a minute, and I looked at her and I said, "Let me take a minute and explain why this is important." And as I started explaining the why, because she thought the technical part she got, but when I started explaining the why, she was like, "Oh." And so well, it was in that moment of understanding why and how this fits into the whole puzzle of the business, it made her a better operator of that particular task. So understanding why, that's critical question number one. Not just what they're doing, but why they're doing. The second question is how. How do they do it? Now, a lot of entrepreneurs would confuse this by saying, "I'm going to micromanage and tell them exactly how to do it the way I would do it." And sometimes that's necessary. If we're talking about very technical stuff, maybe you're in the medical field, like there's certain ways you have to do things and you can't do it whatever the hell you want. You got to do it a certain way. But what I mean by how is let that person know what tools and resources are available to accomplish it, and then let them kind of figure out their specific spin on it. What I found over the years of delegating and answering this question, how, is that I find that a lot of times, probably more often than not, and certainly more than 50%, is that the person I delegated a task to will do it different than I did, but usually better, like a more clever way to do it than I did. Because I had the constraint of understanding what I'm trying to do, and I wasn't thinking about anything else. And they came at it with a clear blank canvas, and they figured out a better way to do it. So the how question needs to be answered. What tools, what resources available, and then let them kind of figure out the details. The third critical question is one a lot of people miss. And this is when, like WHEN. When is this due? I tell a story in my book about an entrepreneur named Cheryl, and she had delegated a task to let's call him Bob in her company, and she said, "Here's why and here's how," but she didn't give him the when. And what ended up happening about 6 months, Bob was completing the task, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But when Cheryl was looking at her revenue numbers, she realized that something was really, really off. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars were off in the P&L. And she went to Bob and said, "Look, I thought you were doing this task." He said, "Yeah, boss, doing it every let's say every Wednesday." I don't know when he did it. I can't remember the details. "I'm doing it every Wednesday." And she says, "No, this has to be done on Mondays, because if you don't do it on Mondays, our vendors don't get the report and we're going to be behind." And it ended up costing her tens of thousands of dollars. Bob did it. He just did it late. So people need to understand, when you delegate, you got to answer the why, you got to answer the how, and you got to answer the when.
That makes so much sense. I mean, it seems intuitive, but why are we missing it so much? I'm just like, are we busy? Are we um, just too much hero syndrome and don't want to actually give it up? What do you think?
I have a theory about this, and it relates to my profession, my former profession as a teacher.
Uh,
Because all of us have experienced going through school, we all think that we know what's best in school and for school. So we just have this, "Oh, okay, I know what's best." And there's this mental block. We think we could be the teacher in the classroom. Well, there's a reason they require teachers to go have a degree. There are things you actually have to learn about pedagogy and how the brain works and how neuroscience works and what skills you need to have to work in a classroom full of 32 screaming kids. No yokel who just went through 12 years of school can show up and do that. There's certain things you have to learn. Well, I think the same mentality ends up infiltrating us as entrepreneurs, and we because we know how to do something, we just assume they know how to do something. "Hey, Bob, do this thing." And we just assume they know how to do it. And they don't. They don't know what we know. They don't think like we think. Listen, I think if you took a brain scan of an entrepreneur, I don't know this to be true, but I would bet money on it. A brain scan of an entrepreneur and a brain scan of an employee, they're going to look very different. Not one's better than the other. Please don't hear that. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but they're going to look different. An entrepreneur thinks very differently than an employee, and an employee thinks differently than an entrepreneur. And guess what? We need them both. I'm an entrepreneur. I need employees. If we were all entrepreneurs, nobody would get anything done. If we're all employees, there would be nothing cool. So we got to have a balance of these two things together.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. So we covered the first three, I think, aspects of your XOS. Can you tell us what the rest of the components are?
Yeah. So stage 4 is when you start working on systems and automation. The reason it's stage 4 or not stage 1 is because a lot of entrepreneurs can attest to the fact that they put together great systems, but they didn't have the people to execute it. And so it was just a system that ended up relying on them to do. So systems come after you get your people in place. Now, it's it's not totally true to think that the systems you don't even think about it until you get to stage 4, but stage 4 is when you double down on it. Now you're going to be putting systems in place as you learn to delegate and you hire your assembly or your assemble your support squad and you hire your A team and you get them trained. Systems and SOPs and automation needs to be implemented as early as you can. But by the time you get your A team put in place, now it's time to double down on your SOPs, double down on your technology, double down. I actually have an interesting timely example of this particular thing. I have a small team. I'm a business coach and I run a mastermind called the Exeter Club. And I've got 3 people who work for me who live here in the Nashville area, and then I've got 3 virtual assistants who live in the Philippines. So I've got a small team of 6 people, all full time that work for me, and we meet once a month all day. And so this Monday was our day. So I've got my support squad put together. I've got an A team of people that are on, like, I got 5 other coaches in my program and they're part of my A team. And my assistant Renee, she's part of my A team. Like, I've got an A team put together. So Monday it became clear to me. It's like, oh, we're in this business, we're at a place where I need to start doubling down on systems and automation, which is stage 4. So it kind of became aware to me, just like, oh, I in this business, I'm really in stage 4. I need to start doubling down. So I want to talk about looking at project management software. What do we need to put in place to automate some of this stuff? That's stage 4. And then when you get that kind of firmly in place, stage 5 shows up. And this is where it kind of gets cool. And I know you're a finance guy, so you're going to like this one. Stage 5, this is when you start building a passive profits machine. This is when you start thinking about everything through the lens of finances. Okay, you've got your delegation plan in place. You've got your assembly. You've assembled your support squad. You've got your A team. Systems and automation are working. Now, how do I make this work so that we maximize profit and nobody has to push buttons or be present to make it happen? Or is there recurring revenue models? Is there something that we can do that will make more money? Well, the reason that's stage 5 and not stages 1, 2, or 3 is that you don't have enough things in place. You're still too involved in the weeds to even consider how to get to a recurring revenue model. So that's stage 5. I'll briefly talk about stages 6 and 7 because that's kind of the payoff. And then we could probably talk a little bit more about it if you have questions. Stage six is exit without exiting. Once you get all that done, now you have the option. You can exit, you can not be involved at all, and you can be the owner investor. And then you have the choice to move to stage 7 or stay in stage 6. Stage 7 is when you sell your company for as much money as possible. That's the full exit. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to do it. I have a client right now who came into the Exeter Club, had his business listed for sale when he came to me. And he said, I know that you're a guy that can help me get this done quicker at a higher revenue, at a higher valuation. Can you help me? He joined and he's been not with us quite a year. And his decision when he was at our workshop in April, he said, I don't think I want to sell it. I said, really? Why? What happened? He goes, now I've got this idea that I can be in stage 6 and I could be anywhere in the world and run this business and continue to get paid. Why would I want to sell it? So some people are going to want to move to stage 7. One of our other clients, he has his business listed with our investment bank partner and they're actually trying to sell it. So it's just up to you how you want to do it. But that's stages 6
Yeah.
and 7.
Yeah. That's that makes me excited because I just got off the phone a few hours ago with one of my clients I've had for a couple of years and in the construction industry. And that is a tough place to be. He's like, the subcontractors, the contractors, the communication's really difficult. Man, I want to get out of this thing. Like, how do I just sell? Like, I don't know if you're ready to sell. Like, the business depends so much on you. I don't know if you'll get much out of it. It's like, well, what do we got to do? And I'm like, I'm going to interview a guy later today. I might need to make an introduction.
Yes, I'll be happy to talk to him. What's interesting because you said he's in construction is we have, I think right now we have 5 or 6 general contractors who are part of
Yeah.
the Exeter Club. And that's not who I mean, we have people in the wedding business. We have people in the marketing business. We have general contractors. We have people that do all kinds of businesses, chiropractors, you name it. We've got people that are from all different places, lawyers, but general contractors have been really drawn to the Exeter Club lately.
What are the things they're saying?
They're saying it's hard to run, right? The contracts and the paperwork and getting paid because and I used to be in the general contracting space. That was the business I had. I had an electrical contracting business, so I understand the lingo. Uh, I can't remember because I haven't done it so long and I've blocked it from my brain because I hated it so much. But there's these certain documents that are like federally governed contract documents that you have to sign between you and the customer that determine how much can be paid on what schedule and how much retainage can be held back. And all that's just mind numbing because in the normal world, Wade, I come to you and I buy your widget. I give you $100, you give me the widget, and we're done. Like that's how this works. Or if I'm paying you for a service, I pay you your monthly or quarterly or annual service fee. You provide those services, and that's it. But in the construction world, that's not how that works. There's so many moving parts and changes. So they just get frustrated. Some people complain early on when they come in, they complain about people, how hard to find good people. But really, that's a mental thing. It really isn't about them, it's about you. Because the good people are there. It's bad bosses. That's the problem. And we show them how to fix that mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So as we wrap up here today, listeners who are ready to reclaim their time, scale their business themselves, maybe want to work toward this model you're talking about, what would you say the most important decision is they can make this very week to help them move forward?
I think the decision you can make this week is you need to make a top 10 list of things that you're doing on a regular basis that someone else could do. I'm not saying they would, just could. What are the top 10 things you're doing that someone else could do, and pick one thing and delegate that for 30 days. And if you will do that, your life will change. Now, it's you have to stay committed to it, and there's certain things you have to do that. And I've got a free resource I'd be happy to give. If there's a delegation cheat sheet that I can give everybody if you want to put that in your show notes. But there are certain things you can do. But the main thing to answer your question, Wade, is delegate one thing. Just take one task this week and give it to somebody else and do it the right way. Answer the why, answer the when, or answer the how and the when, and see what happens. And only do it for 30 days. You don't have to do it permanently. Just do it for 30 days. See what happens. And I promise your life will change.
Love it. Love it. Now, Jason, you have a podcast yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do on your podcast?
Yes, I have two podcasts. I don't know, when you and I met, I don't think the first podcast has been going for a while, but the second one had just released. But my original podcast is called The Root of All Success. And it is an interview podcast mostly. I do some solo episodes where I do kind of what you're doing. I bring people in who are successful. They're mostly entrepreneurs, and I talk about their stories of success, what they classify as success. So if you really want to tap into how hundreds of different entrepreneurs have achieved success and how they define it, then The Root of All Success is a good show. Now, the other show that I started is called Chisel and Compass. Chisel and Compass. And it is, I've got a co-host and we don't interview anybody. It's just the two of us talking. And it's a conversation that looks at the intersection of faith, business, and mindset. So we really kind of geek out on mindset. How does mindset affect everything? And what does that do for us in business? And then because we both follow Jesus, we talk a lot about the biblical principles that support and undergird all of what we do in business and through our mindset.
Very cool. Tell me the name again.
Chisel and Compass. Chisel and Compass.
So I'm thinking about what those represent. So chisel would have to be either wood or stone,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And a compass, not like a directional compass, northeast, southwest. Were you talking about the scribe that you can?
No, I'm talking about so the Chisel and Compass name is about chiseling away everything that is not what you need in your life. Because when a sculptor looks at a piece of marble and wants to create something amazing, they take the chisel to carve away what shouldn't be there. And so that's what Chisel and Compass means. And then on the compass side is what's your true north? What are you really trying to go for? Because just chasing success or chasing money isn't what it is. So Chisel and Compass is this kind of idea of like, we're going to get down to the brass tacks of everything.
Love it. That sounds like a great podcast. I'll have to look it up myself.
It's been great. We've enjoyed the conversations. It gives us an outlet to talk about things. He's a good friend of mine, and we talk about this stuff all the time offline. It's like, hey man, we should do this on microphones and let the world listen to it.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So, Jason, if anyone wants to connect with you and see if your program would be a fit for them, how do they do that?
So the best way to do that is go to therealjasonduncan.com/mastermind. Therealjasonduncan.com/mastermind. And on that landing page there, it'll tell you everything you need to know about the Exeter Club, which is the name of the mastermind. There's videos on there, there's testimonials on there, there's all the information about what you get as a member. And there's an opportunity for you to apply because we don't take everybody, they only take certain kinds of entrepreneurs, and you got to be doing well to get in. Like, we're not working with startups. We're not working with people that only been in business for a year and doing a couple $100,000 in revenue. You got to be doing at least 300 grand in net or 3 million in top line revenue for us to consider you.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. Jason, thanks so much for being on with me today.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.